Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics video on the channel. Round 14 is upon us and it's time for some captains on Thursday as we always do. We're going okay, captains. Looking at the rankings here, I think we're currently fourth overall there. Look, some obviously names we know are in the fantasy community there. So obviously Viscerate's up there. Fantasy Nut, obviously Vam's up in second. Obviously having a very, very good year, both fantasy and captains. Then you got obviously Mitch. And I'm not too far behind in fourth there as well. Even Darren Carr Wise Ocean Pods is also in the top 10. So a couple of familiar names up there in the top 10 of captains this week, or this year, sorry. So hopefully we can continue our good run of captains and continue picking some good ones for you. I was just trying to get that back straight on the video. Yep, there we go. We're back straight and ready to go. So let's go into our top 5. And then our top 10, then we'll touch on some other players as we always do. So coming in at number 1, probably slightly dependent on how team selections go this week, but I do have Max Gawn at number 1 up against Port Adelaide on the Sunday at Adelaide Oval. So I've got him at number 1. If Vicentini's playing, Port are by far the easiest matchup going around in all of fantasy, if you look at it there. So over the last 5 rounds, the easiest matchup in any position is Rucks against Port Adelaide. So just getting up here. So Rucks against Port Adelaide at the moment are plus 18.6 on their average. So that's obviously huge. And there's a few other matchups that are pretty close by, but obviously Port are clearly the easiest for Rucks at the moment. 118 and 146 in his last 2 against Port Adelaide. So a couple of big scores there as well. I think he goes big. If Jordan Sweet comes in, I may flip number 1 and 2, but this is a very, very interesting week for captains. There are, I think, a lot of good options and a lot of factors for teams. I think they're actually going to probably sort of figure out where these guys sit. So coming in at number 2 is Bailey Smith, who we need to see if he's named. He's up against Essendon at the MCG, and Essendon are one of the best matchups there for outside midfielders, but also pretty good for inside mid. So they're plus 16 points for outside mids. And we know that Baz gets a lot of his ball on the outside, but does do a bit of his work on the inside as well. But he's obviously that run and carry type mid. And at the MCG this year, I think Baz actually, again, has done pretty well. I know that he had a 132 against Carlton at the G earlier in the year. Just seeing, did he play any other games at the MCG this year? Hawthorn got an 84, 132 against Carlton, 119 against Collingwood. So pretty good besides that Hawthorn game. There, I think I can't remember if he got a bit of attention or not in that game, but I know it was a low-scoring fantasy game for a lot of people, including like a Max Holmes. But yeah, I think he's in for a good game. If he's named, obviously we've got to see if he's named, and that would mean he's out of the 10 if he's obviously not playing. Coming in at number 3, I've got the Bont tonight against the Saints. So he's got a really good record against St Kilda. 119, 110, 92, 140, and 138 in his last 5 against them. Scored the 119 earlier this year against St Kilda. And that was from just the 71% game time. So obviously was on for a monster score there. I wonder if, because he's played well against the Saints in the past, they put some attention into him. But Windhager, if he's going to tag him one, I feel like he matches up better with than Ed Richards. So I don't really know who would go with a Bont, like Mitch Owens maybe. Does he go with him? Maybe that's the only guy that would sort of for size would match up against the Bont. But I don't know if they're going to bring a forward to tag him. So I think that, and especially with McRae coming back as well, Windhager might not even be in the mids, and I think he goes to Ed Richards regardless. So I think Bont will still be fine and is a good VC option this week. Coming in at number 4, I have got Andrew Brayshaw up against North Melbourne at Optus. So his last 4 against North, 91, 122, 134, 121. And North Melbourne are a very nice matchup for midfielders, particularly over the last 5. So over the last 5, they are really good for inside mid, so plus 10.2 points, and then plus 3.4 for outside. So the fact that it's Optus as well, Brayshaw, we know, loves scoring Optus. He's actually the second highest averaging midfielder for the year, behind Jordan Dawson. So averaging 105. So his scores at Optus this year, 77 against Sydney when he got a tag, 110, 119, 127, 119, 88, against Port Adelaide. And that was obviously in that wet game. So really besides that Port game, the Sydney game, he's gone over 110 every other game at Optus. And because how good a matchup are North Melbourne are for mids. I don't see a tag going his way either. I think Brayshaw will be good. But you never know if they name Will Phillips something, maybe I might be a bit concerned about him. So he's currently at number 4. And I've got Connor Rozee rounding out my top 5. He's up against Melbourne at Adelaide Oval. Melbourne, again, have been a really good matchup for defenders there. So rebounding defenders there, plus 6.6 points. So they're one of the best matchups going around. I think they're the 3rd or 4th best matchup, but they're bright green here on the DVP. And the fact that you look at even last week, like a Josh Dacos scored 128, absolutely racked up back there. And we know that Melbourne have been giving up points like Wilkie 128, Brad Hill 120, Nasai 117, Sinclair 112. Like just all these defenders absolutely racking up there. Even did Sydney players rack up. Roberts got to a 94, but obviously Melbourne beat Sydney by a lot. So not huge scores from Sydney, but last couple of weeks particularly, they've given up a lot of points. So I think Rozee, he's been so consistent this year as well. And he scores against Melbourne in his last 4, 113, 99, 121 and 108. So pretty good scores there. Obviously not really in that half-back role. But again, if you go to Rozee's numbers for the year, averaging 108.7 for the year, has only gone below 100 on 3 occasions. That was in rounds 3 and 4 where he went back-to-back scores of 84. But has only gone below 100 once since being in his half-back role. Just the 87 in round 8 against the Dogs. But it was at Ballarat. They lost by a lot as well. And he still had 29 touches. It was just the 3 marks and only 1 tackle that meant, and no scoring shots either, that meant he didn't go well. But his game time obviously is huge. It's like 92% each of the last 2 weeks. I think he's a really good option this week. I'm just seeing, does Melbourne put someone on him? I think Butters is probably the guy they tag in the middle, but we know Rozee's been tagged before and he can flip between defence and forward. So I think he'll be fine regardless of where he goes. So I do like Rozee this week, and he's a good option on the Sunday. Going into the 6 through 10 now. So at number 6, I've got Big X, Tristan Cherry, up against Freo. Freo are sort of a bit of an average sort of a matchup, but we know how good Cherry is. I think he's a pretty safe captain option, averaging 106 for the year. Has gone over a ton in every game bar 1 since round 6, obviously when he's back in form. The only game was under that was 86 against Collingwood. Was on track for a good score there, just had a pretty poor second half. But when he's gone over a ton in all these games, I think the thing to note is he's gone over 110 when he goes over 100. So 111 was his lowest score, actually, fun enough, when he's gone over 100. But he's normally pretty safe, and he's obviously got the ceiling. So up against Freo, it's up against Darcy and Jackson. But if Jackson's going to be the number 1 ruck, I think Cherry can sort of rack up there. So there's, again, depending on teams, with obviously Baz Smith is named. If I hear any comments about Bont maybe getting a tag or something, or if North bring a tagger in, he could be bumped into the top 5. So I think that the top 10 will be solidified tomorrow on our pre-lockout chat. But this is currently what I've got. So Cherry at 6. I've got Tom De Koning at 7. So up against the Eagles. 75 against them early in the year in that really hot game and that really uncontested game. And then a 105, I believe it was 2023 when he was solo ruck. The other games he was sharing with Pitney or he didn't play. But we know that Tom De Koning, when he's come up against a good matchup, he's been someone that has been able to feast on a matchup. So he scored a 121 against Goldie last week. Other good matchups, he's got a 104 against St Kilda, a 117 against Geelong, a 130 against the Dogs, 107 against Hawthorn, and 132 against Richmond. So the other ones he went under was like Collingwood, West Coast, obviously that was the other game we talked about before, North Melbourne, Adelaide, and GWS. They're probably all the tougher games. And that Giants game was his first game back post-injury as well. So, yeah, he's been a really, really good option. And I think he is a guy that you might be able to put as a captaincy late in the round. I've got Tim English at number 8, so he's down the list here, but he's up against Ryan Marshall here. So his last 3 scores against him, 99, 128, and 117 against Marshall. So he's been pretty good, but it's more a fact of how good he's been this year. So he's got a 139 last week. From rounds 6 onwards, he's only gone below a ton twice. And that was a 92 and a 95. The 92 was against Jared Witts in Darwin. The other one was against Geelong for a 95. There, but a lot of good scores, 124, 145, 102, 139. When he's going 100, he's actually hitting some ceiling scores, which is the English that we have known for a few years ago when he was the top scoring player in the comp. In terms of St Kilda up against Rucks, St Kilda, they're sort of okay. They're around the average mark, but they're a plus matchup still, so I think English is a potential VC shout tonight if you didn't have a Bont. At number 9, I've got Jai Caldwell. He is not on the list here. He's actually a fair bit down, so he's actually here. So up against Geelong. Geelong, again, sort of middle-of-the-road matchup for midfielders, whether inside or outside. They're slightly negative, but I think the fact that Merritt will get the attention, I think Jai Caldwell is going to be a guy that might be able to feast up in this matchup. MCG, he's been really, really good of late as well. Been one of the best players in the comp in terms of average over his last few games. So his last 3, he's gone 120, 128, 110 since he's returned from injury and playing full game time. And we know when he plays over 70%, I think, or something like that, he averages like over 110. So he's played essentially 80% game time the last 2 weeks. And has scored pretty well. Was quieter in the last half last week, but he still had 11, 8, and 8 tackles. He's getting plenty of the ball as well. I think he's a pretty good option this week, and maybe he could be a real pot option if you want to go for something different that might be able to hit a ceiling. Scored a 144 against Geelong last year, so he's got the potential ceiling there to put up a score, and obviously he was pretty good last year against Geelong. So I've got him there at number 9. I'm just double checking that score was against Geelong last year and not the year before, because I know he was 144. I'm pretty sure it was last year. 32 disposals, 12 tackles. So yep, and that was when they lost by 45. So I think that he is another good option once again. And then my final guy rounding out my top 10 is Rowan Marshall. I'm just trying to get the Maroons Magic thing back up so I can get DVP. But Rowan Marshall is at number 10. So he is here. So there we go. So right there. His record against Tim English the last 2 games hasn't been great. So 52, 62, and 116. That 52 was earlier this year as well. Probably put that slightly down to him working his way back from that preseason injury. But the 62 last year as well wasn't great. And then a 116 before that. So not great scores. Rucks against the Dogs, still a plus matchup, but English has obviously been a lot better this year for Rucks. I just look at Marshall and go, well, he's had the week off, week to freshen up, and he's got the ceiling. I think he's got the highest, arguably the highest ceiling out of anyone that's playing tonight in this game. So if you want to go for a real different V6, a lot of people are going to go for a Bont or an English or a maybe even a Bailey Dale against the Saints or a Matt Kennedy or someone like that. But I think Ryan Marshall could be a potential shout as a VC. Went 158 against the Eagles, 77 against Gold Coast, and 92 against Melbourne. I think those numbers obviously really, really tough matchups and gave away a fair few free kicks, I believe, in those two. So gave away 3 and 4. He's actually given away 3 and 4 free kicks in his last 3 games. So not great. Before that, gave away 1, then 3, 4, and 3. So he's actually giving away a lot of free kicks, which is really sort of holding him back. So hopefully he doesn't do that tonight. And if he doesn't give him away a heap of free kicks, might actually put up a ceiling score. So I don't mind him as a pod option if you want to go there, because this could be a week where you look for a pod, because there's a lot of good options. In terms of players I didn't touch on, Max Holmes is just outside my top 10, so he'd be essentially like number 11 if I was to do like guys outside. So he's up against the Bombers. As I said, great matchup. I just think if Bailey Smith is there, it just takes away the ceiling from him. So the only games this year that Max Holmes has gone over 120 was round 5 against the Crows, which is when Baz actually went, one of his games where he went sub 100, and then 146 where Baz played. I just think when Baz plays, it caps Max Holmes' ceiling a little bit. It's the only reason I don't have him in my top 10, but great matchup. If Baz doesn't play, he will probably shoot right in. Might even be in the just outside the top 5. Could even potentially be inside the top 5, but he'd be around that sort of 4, 5, 6, 7 range there. So we'll see if Baz is named tonight, and if he's not, or if he's a laid out, then Max Holmes would shoot right up into calculations. Nasiah, Wangani Miller isn't a bad option. I just know the Dogs haven't been as good for defenders this year. They've been a little bit better last few weeks, but early this year against the Dogs, Naz scored an 86. And normally when St Kilda are losing, he normally goes a little bit more in the mids, which means he doesn't score as much. He's a pretty safe option, right? But I don't know if he's necessarily a VC guy to look at, right? He's only had the 2 scores this year over 120, which was against Brisbane and then against Gold Coast, both at Marvel Fan, where they play tonight. So could have a good score, but he's also the guy that might attract some attention. So there's like, do they put like a Riley West or like a McNeil, or if McNeil was back in the team, or someone like that? Do they play like a defensive forward role on the side? That would be something I'd be slightly concerned about. But, yeah, not a bad option. I just prefer other guys. Matt Kennedy was a guy that just missed out of my top 10 as well. Probably more the fact that he, and people are going to say we did this last week, right? He doesn't usually have a huge ceiling, right? He went 132 last week. But that was his first score over 120. To be fair, in his last 5, he has gone over 110 in every game. So he has been really consistent. I think there are better options for a ceiling score in tonight's game that I'd probably go for, which just bumped outside the top 10. But again, he's like with Max Holmes, like right outside the top 10. I think there are like 12, 13, 14 potential good options for captaincy this week. So he's just outside, probably disrespectful not putting him in the top 10 based on his form, but he just misses out there. Jordan Dawson against the Hawks. Jordan Dawson's record against Hawthorn hasn't been great. 60, 103 and 76 in his 3 games at the Crows playing against Hawthorn. The 76 he got tagged by McGuinness. That was one of the first times he got tagged. Then he scored a 103, then a 60 last year when he was injured. So probably can't read too much into it. He's a decent VC shout, obviously, with the ceiling. I just think in Tassie against the Hawks, I don't love the matchup. Hawks for mids have been pretty much bang on average. They're the yellow, like white. They're right in the middle. They essentially give up just the average of what midfielders do. So I don't normally love that, but I do. I just want to see how they go, how Dawson goes instead of probably VC. I think there are better options this week. Butters against Melbourne. Good matchup against Melbourne. So obviously Melbourne are pretty good for midfielders there. I just think he cops a bit of attention from if it's a Vine, if he's back. Maybe does Langdon go to him this week? I don't know if they're going to do that tougher tag again, but they've obviously got Sparrow that can do some attention on players. They've got some options. So does Butters get attention? That's probably my question. I think he probably does. And even this year, Butters hasn't really been able to quite hit that consistent ceiling that we've seen from him in the past. So he's only had the one score over 120 against North Melbourne in round 7. And his last 4, he's gone 95, 46, 85, and 104. Granted, with a few tags there. So I just think with attention, I think he's not going to put a ceiling score this week. Nick Martin, very similar. One of the few players just outside the top 10. I think he's solid against Geelong. Decent matchup. Again, I mentioned Geelong are a great matchup for those outside. Essendon a good matchup. Sorry. Geelong aren't as easy for midfielders to score. Even like Geelong are actually, over the last 5 weeks, they're only giving up plus points for key backs, rucks, and key forwards. So they're not actually giving up very many points to the high half forwards, midfielders, or rebounding defenders, which is all the roles that Nick Martin plays. That's the only reason he's not in my top 10, just because the matchup isn't as good. But he's got a ceiling. He could be someone, if Baz is to be out or a laid out, you could pivot to him if you don't have a Holmes. Hewitt and Walsh against West Coast could be solid captain options coming home. I just think there are better this week. Richards, don't think he's got that consistent ceiling like the other Dogs guys got tonight, so I wouldn't look at him, even though he could be good tonight. I think he does cop the Windhager tag, though, if they're tagging. Bailey Dale, again, he could cop the Windhager tag, but if he doesn't, St Kilda give up. Obviously, we know St Kilda are a good matchup for those defenders. Haven't been as good as of late, but I think there's still a good matchup. Bailey Dale could be good. Merritt, I think his roles all over the shop, could cop some attention from one of the Irish guys in O'Connor or Mullen, so I'm not looking at him. Sinclair could be good, but against the Dogs, Dogs are a bit better over the last 5 weeks for defenders, but I think it was earlier in the year, I think Sinclair only had like a 76 against them, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just have a quick look. Don't think he scored very well against them. 78. So didn't score great against them last time. I think he'd be better this game, but probably not in terms of being in the top 10. And that's probably it. She's against Freo. It could be a shout for a ceiling, but probably his role, just we want to see if he's more mid this week than not. And then like the Giants and Brisbane guys, I've got none of them in the top 10 just because they've either been poor or it's just a tough matchup for both. So that's my top 10 options. So what I'm doing this week, this is probably the first week I'm not actually following my own top 5. I'm actually going Baz VC into Brayshaw, Rosie, or Cherry. At this stage, I'm looking at probably a Cherry, but because I've got Brayshaw, Rosie, Cherry 4, 5, and 6, maybe I'll go Brayshaw with the matchup. But again, probably just depending on if they name someone for a tagging job. Obviously, this list will be finalised tomorrow on our pre-lockout chat, as it always is. But as of sort of Thursday morning, this is how it's looking. But yeah, Baz into one of those guys. And the reason I'm doing that is because following my list, I'd go Bont into Baz, right? I don't know if this week I feel comfortable with Baz as a straight captain. Just because of the hamstring awareness. Like, if he feels sore in a game, do they sub him? Does he like get subbed out or have low game time? So if Baz is playing, I want the VC on him. I don't want the C on him. So that's why I'm not following the list, right? If Baz isn't playing, I'll be going the VC on Bont tonight into a Brayshaw, Rosie, or Cherry. One of those 3 guys. And again, depending on names and teams and stuff like that, probably Brayshaw or Cherry is probably where I'm looking at the moment. If Baz is named and then is a late out, I'll probably go either a Holmes potential VC, or I'll probably go a VC on a Brayshaw or a Cherry, and then go captaincy on Rosie. So I've got a lot of guys from like 2 to 6 that I'm looking at captaincy this week. So it's a really tough week, I think, because like Baz, good matchup, Bont, good matchup, Brayshaw, Rosie, and Cherry, all good matchups. I'm considering 2 of those guys, but at the moment it's Baz into Cherry, but it may change based on sort of the teams and stuff like that. Could even be Bont tonight, as I said. So beautiful. That is how we are looking for this week. But let me know in the comments, guys, how you guys are looking for this week. VC and C, who are you guys going with for round 14? And any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll try and get to some if I can. But as always, if I can't get to your question, you do want a guaranteed answer to any of your captain questions, any of your trade questions, or you want a full team review, head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Each Patreon member gets a team review each week. You also get the exclusive Patreon Q&A. That dropped earlier today as well. And then you've also got some other bonus stuff in there as well. If you'd just like to help support us here at the AFL Fantasy Fanatics, you can sign up there. Link is in the description of the video, or head to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. But if you did enjoy the video, make sure you smash a big old thumbs up on the video. That'd be very much appreciated. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. We're currently at 3941. So we're only 59 subscribers away from 4K. So we are just getting very, very close. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. And if you can help us reach that goal, that'd be very much appreciated. That's been our goal, obviously, for the season. So, you guys have been smashing it this year with all the support. So, very much appreciate it. I'll be back tonight for a watch-along for the Dogs and Saints game. So, looking forward to that one. So, if you want to tune in and ask questions and stuff while I'm live and watch the game together, hopefully see some big scores. Plenty of fantasy relevant players there. Make sure you do tune in. And then we'll be live tomorrow for our Pro-Lockout Chat. As always, 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. per time, answering a heap more of your questions. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll catch you guys either tonight for the watch along or tomorrow for a pre-lockout chat. So thanks everyone. Catch you then. See ya.